truth in a world of lies. You are listening to the JohnAge Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
You found it. You're here. You're headlong down the runaway train that is the AnomicAge, and I am your host, JohnAge. Happy to be back with you once again in the not so wee hours of the PM. I must say it's nice, I guess, to be up in the light. So we're sitting at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, hailing proudly from the coastal plains of the old North State. I'll be your tour guide this afternoon as we take a somewhat satirical journey down the path of murder, destruction, mayhem, and the extermination of human life on this planet. Check out AnomicAge.com if you have not already done so. Like all the likes, subscribe to all the subscriptions, paypal.me/AnomicAge, patreon.com/AnomicAge as well. We got the buy me a cup of coffee and the Cash App link up there too. Free iPhone app, Android app. You know the deal. You know the deal, folks. I'm not going to waste your time with that nonsense. We got to jump right into the deep end of the pool. We don't have a lot of time, so we'll give it to you straight. Today, it's probably a better time to talk about this. Might be in the nighttime. That old J Church song, The Nighttime is the Right Time. It is, man. I love the nighttime. But alas, here I am and there you are in the wide world of the daylight, of the living. And we're going to talk about One Nation Under Blood. Shout out to yours truly for the artwork and the graphic designs. I kind of made the back there a little bit more digestible since I'm new to the YouTube again after several years. I didn't know if they could handle the truth. So you got a little Manson on the right. Disgustingly, you have an aborted fetus there in the middle image. And then you've got the Hollywood's own Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, on the left. So what we'll get into this afternoon is really what I've been thinking about a lot lately. Why is it, and I'll just talk Americans here because that's where I am, but shout out to Glenn in New Zealand. Thanks for being with us. But what is the deal? Why are we, I would say, obsessed with the serial killer in Western society, but we're so quick to just sweep under the rug. We've become so desensitized, to paraphrase the Slapshot song, desensitized to the real murder that's been going on for centuries, for generations here. It's really disturbing because, yeah, I guess it's the old Stalin quote. You know, one loss is a tragedy, a million lost is a statistic. Speaking of the humans and the life tolls thereof. So I think that's kind of a big part of it, folks. It really is our inability to see just the death, the murder, the mayhem, the destruction that's really been a part of our lives here. One Nation Under Blood since its inception. And I could go down the obvious rabbit holes that the left would fall into and talk about slavery, of course. It's wrong, it's reprehensible, and we don't condone it. Yeah, it happened, and it's been happening since the dawn of man. So that's one of the obvious ones. You could obviously look down in the rabbit hole in another lens, and I would say the often overlooked, but the genocide of the Native Americans here has been another One Nation Under Blood. So that's definitely one too. So those are the obvious rabbit holes that the left would fall into. And I'm not looking at this from a right, left, or otherwise. You know me, I think they're both a bunch of criminal filth. So we'll look at it through, I guess, the broader lens and look at the often overlooked, undetected, or underappreciated murders, massacres, mayhems, and democides that have been going on since the nation's inception. I mean, this is from the University of Hawaii study. I believe this is darn near 25 years ago now. They did a study on democide, which is the death of citizenry by government. And democide really is the biggest killer, folks. That's it. It stuffs out more people than anything. But it is quite often overlooked. So we'll run down some of the obvious ones here. And Roe versus Wade, 1973. And these are very conservative numbers. This is straight off the intro web, so you can take it with a grain of salt, if you will. But over 63 million abortions have occurred in the United States since 1973. That's 63 mil. That's one nation under blood. That's what it is, folks. Let's kick this one off here. Japanese killed due to the atomic bomb. You got Fat Boy was dropped right on a Christian church in Nagasaki, folks. That's where it was. And we've got estimated 150 to 246 100,000 there murdered due to the atomic bomb. And again, that wasn't needed. That was completely overkill. Not even pun intended. It's just so ridiculous. The URAKAMI Cathedral. Urakamari. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, folks. I'm dreadful at Asiatic languages. But the cathedral there in Nagasaki, Japan, destroyed in 1945 when the atomic bomb basically just landed on that cathedral. Ironically enough, that was the first building rebuilt by the Christians in that nation. They lost over, what was it, like 2/3, I believe, of the population that was going to that Christian church. So, once again, completely insane. Why did we drop the atomic bomb in the first place? Good question. Why were we targeting women and children facilities? Good question. Why did it hit the church, the Christian church in Nagasaki? Why would that be your target of said bomb? Again, good question. One nation under blood, folks. That's what's up. Let's see. Vietnam War. U.S. and Allied military deaths, we're at 284,000. I would say that's extremely conservative. We're not even talking about the total deaths, well over 1 million, when we're looking at civilians, the VC and the like. Take a look at what was up with Vietnam. Complete scam. Gulf of Tonkin didn't happen. That was Admiral Morris, Jim Morrison's father, Morrison's father, with the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Widely known, not conspiratorial. It didn't happen, folks. It didn't happen any more than Santa Claus coming down your chimney. It just didn't happen. It's a bunch of horse pucky. So we got all those deaths, the blood on the American hands there. It didn't need to happen. That was completely ridiculous. And I say those are super conservative numbers because that's not even mentioning the untold folks that made it back to the U.S., ridiculous drug addictions, ridiculous PTSD, people harming themselves, family, and others. Doesn't even drop in the bucket, folks. World War II. Americans died, according to the intro web, 405,000. Again, a drop in the bucket compared to what Russia lost with this. What was it predicated on, folks? U.S. involvement. What was that all about? That was about the false flag. Pearl Harbor. I'm not saying things didn't blow up, people didn't die. I'm saying it was well known that was going to happen. You had FDR having the speech prepared days beforehand. This is common knowledge here, folks. Oh my goodness. The cough's still with me. It's dreadful here in NC. It's yellow. It's a blanket of yellow death, folks. It's terrible. Demonic attack, I tell you. World War I. 116,000. Conservatively, we got a little ... after that. American military personnel died at the incidents of World War I. We know and love that to be predicated on the false flag of the Lusitania as well. Again, we weren't slated to get into that. Woodrow Wilson, one of the greatest presidents of all time, said, yeah, we're not getting into that. But alas, that was just a way of schnookering us into it. And, of course, income tax and Federal Reserve, all kinds of goodies. But we love Woodrow Wilson. One nation under blood. That's what it boils down to, folks. We got the 9/11 attacks. Death toll is about 3,000. Excuse me, I didn't mean to bump the thing there. I'm trying to curtail the coughing. Again, 9/11, false flag, 110%. One nation under blood, folks. That's what it's all about. Again, underscore. It ain't the hokey pokey. It's one nation under blood. And if you go through any anthropology or history classes, they'll be quick to tell you about the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Greeks and the Romans and the Colosseums and the crucifixions and all this dastardly stuff that's occurred over time. But we seem to be ignoring, avoiding, or just unable to grasp the elephant in the room. That we are one nation under blood, folks. That's what's up. The number of people killed at the hands of the U.S., by the U.S., under the pretense of false flags and other stupid operations is just hilarious. But it's not. It's disturbing, or at least it should be. I didn't even get into some of the obvious stuff. There's a lovely documentary called The Panama Deception about our ridiculous involvement in Panama. You could look into the Smedley Butler material talking about how we were controlling Central and South America with our fruit trade. You could look at the Tuskegee experiments, the folks murdered with those lovely experiments. I mean, it's almost beyond the pale. There were so many more. I was thinking about these right before the show, and I can't even keep up with all of them. Goodness sakes. Waco, Ruby Ridge. Again, just people murdered at the hands of the Americans. We got the children of thalidomide. That's another good one. You missed those, right? You got the people that were poisoned by the federal government during alcohol prohibition. Yeah, killing their own people again. You got the crash of the stock market in 29, which was an obvious inside gig. You got the millions dead from that. You got the Dust Bowl. I mean, all this stuff was all just symptomatic of one nation under blood. So when you look at the history of these other bloody civilizations, which just pale in comparison to the blood loss, bloodletting, and otherwise ritual that is one nation under blood. I mean, it's totally sick, folks. But we don't see it because, you know, unlike the Aztecs, we don't have a big pyramid in the center of town where they're just cutting out still beating hearts and setting up skull racks. We don't have that. We don't have the lions in the arena a la the Romans. We don't have that. So all of our bloodletting and ritual sacrifice seems to be going on sort of behind the scenes. It's covert. And you don't really see it. You don't really understand or appreciate the magnitude of death that's really occurred due to these lies, false flags, and otherwise just bogus events, bogus charges. I mean, people would look back and gasp at the Rodney King beatings, and they would look like at the George Floyd and say her name and all this stuff. So they would gasp at these individual incidents, but not at the millions that we just ran through in a matter of minutes here that have been murdered one nation under blood, folks. So why? Why does the American populace have this dissociation? The total dissociation where we don't realize what we really are. That should be the real truth here, folks. What we really are. We haven't even gotten into the ridiculous events where we've been playing in the sand in the Middle East since at least the late 1970s. Why? Why do we keep having these mass bloodletting rituals is the real thing. Why do we have this dissociation? I would submit to you it's probably because we don't see it 8 days a week and twice on Sunday. It's all done covertly. It's all done somewhere else. To paraphrase the great movie by Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. Norman Bates is in the parlor and he's talking to the attractive blonde, and she mentions putting the mother someplace. And Norman quips back, they always call it someplace, don't they? That's true, folks. We don't realize, as long as it's going on someplace else, we don't really seem to grasp what's really going on. And here's another complete flip on this, another complete irony missed on most, I would submit to you, that we have these sort of cremations of care. Just like the Bohemian Club, Bohemian Grove, California. We have our own cremation of care ritual, folks. We really do. Because here's the irony. Every few years, and you could look at these serial killers at face value and say, oh, these dastardly tyrants and these are, oh, it's terrible. It is, folks. It is, because they're murdering people. But you could also look at it through the probably more accurate lens. Sorry, I should have bleeped that cough there. That these folks are most likely CIA mind control candidates. If you look at the connections of so many of these people, look at Dahmer, look at Bundy, look at BTK, look at all these serial killers from the last 60 years. Just go 60 years back. And you'll see a very common thread. So, that being said, you can look at it through either lens you want. I just submit to you that the serial killers have become our cremation of care because they have become the pop cultural icons of death. They've become what everyone can scoff at, gasp at, and just, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's true. There's a murder going on. There's a murder in the neighborhood. That's really what we collectively say as a society every time some sort of serial killer gets propped up on the news and unmasked as the great tyrant of the day. The last one probably being the BTK killer. That'd be my humble estimation. I don't know. But every few years, we unmask another villain, and we do our own little cremation of care. Those of you who are not hip to this, look into the Bohemian Club, the Bohemian Grove, where they have this Moloch edifice outside, this large owl. They bring in this effigy of a child. Supposedly it ain't real. And they burn that. And the occult side of this is to burn the care. It's not a forgiveness of sins. It's not a repentance of sins. Let's burn this effigy to symbolize our ills, our wrongdoings, our sins, if you will. And we are thus burning the care. We no longer take responsibility or care. The cremation of care. So, I would submit to you that's exactly what's going on in the US of A. 8 days a week and twice on Sunday. Every time we prop up one of these serial killers and point to them as the ills, woes, and wrongs of the society, they become our cremation of care. They become the persona non grata. They become the evil specter in the corner that we can all point at and pretend that we are not responsible for the over 65 million murdered babies since Roe versus Wade in 1973. We could pretend we have no onus on the people killed in Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, and the like. We take no onus on what went on in Japan or what went on in Vietnam or what went on overseas, because after all, that occurred someplace else, right? So, I think we got a problem, Houston. We really do. We're taking no onus of our own role in the senseless murder of people all across the globe. And if you'll understand and appreciate it, I haven't even mentioned the people murdered by, you know, elephant in the room, los inyecciones, y la comida. Yeah. Or the cult of pharmakia. So we ain't even mentioned that yet, folks. We're just talking about someplace else. All right, I'm going to pull the string on this thing right about now. I think you get what I'm putting down. Stick around. I might roll out and do this again in a couple hours. You can't do everything, but you can do something. Be safe out there. I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the AnomicAge.
Thank you for listening to the AnomicAge, a JohnAge project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to AnomicAge.com. That's AnomicAge.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to the AnomicAge.
Thank you.